Welcome to the SCC series of Chain Reaction, and Pamela Vaill Carter is with us today and is the latest participant in our series, and I'm really pleased to welcome her. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you for having me, Claire.
Great pleasure. And what I would like, first of all, is for you just to give us a brief overview of how you introduction to yourself and how you came into osteopathy.
Okay, it is a very long story, but I'll try to keep it short. I'm from America. I had had two careers actually previously. I'd always been involved in the arts. And I found myself in the late 80s. I'd been a writer before that. I'd been an actor, and I found myself, in an advertising job that was kind of a dead-end job, and I wasn't really happy. And at the same time, I had a pretty bad injury. I had a disc prolapse, and I was injured, so I had to stop working for a while and sort of stopped to reevaluate my life. And I was having a lot of great physio. This is in California, and got involved in Pilates and sort of strengthening myself, my back and my injury. And I thought I'll take some time off. I came over to England to visit my mother, who was living here, and I saw an osteopath here, and he just had an influence. He said, well, if maybe you should think about retraining to become an osteopath. And I just explored it. And a couple of years later, I did some access courses. I had to take biology and things that I never had taken in high school. And I joined the osteopathic course at the BCNO because I was quite involved with nutrition and interest in nutrition and naturopathy. So that's how I found osteopathy. And I graduated from the BCNO, which is now BCom, in 1997. And I began teaching concurrently. And so I've been there, teaching and practicing now for 23 years, which has been gone very quickly, very quickly.
And could you tell us what were the chief influences on you in your development?
Well, as an osteopath, I would say, in my last year, probably my last year, I liked treating people, and I really felt an affinity for that, for working with people and working with people's health. And but I was quite disenchanted with the kind of osteopathy that was practiced or being taught at that college at the time. And but there were two teachers that I had that I really liked, who I ended up teaching with when I graduated. One was Caroline Stone, and the other was Phil Beach, who had a very most people know Caroline Stone and her work, and from her I was introduced to Jean-Pierre Burral and his work. But the other, Phil Beach, was very much into acupuncture and Chinese medicine and integrating a lot of systems in the body and like anatomy trains and things like that before even the book had come out. So he was really involved in things that I thought was very interesting. But also I was introduced to the whole SCC cranial course team, and I really found Sybil and Caroline Penn and Alison Brown to be very inspirational. And moreover, I found being a model and having cranial osteopathy performed on me in the cranial module was just kind of revolution. It was amazing to me how one could do so little, or seemingly do so little, and have such a great effect, especially after being twisted and manipulated and torn around, as all osteopathic students are by the fourth year. And it was just, I felt like, oh, this is what I really wanted to go into. And I did get one of my first jobs was with a biodynamic practitioner, and I learned a lot from her. And as I said, I started on the pathway immediately. So I enrolled in my first course, I think this September after I qualified, module 2. And I've continued to be greatly influenced by all the tutors at the SCC, including yourself. Sue Turner has been a real mentor to me, and has taught me so much about osteopathy. Pete Cockhill, so everyone really. I could mention. I don't want to leave anyone out, but also my contemporary colleagues like Michael Harris and Jane Eastie. You know, I've learned so much about embryology and appreciate Bleshmet because of Jane. So all those people have influenced me, but I would say teaching and following the path of, teaching, it was, just getting assigned when I first started teaching on module 2, the fascia lecture. And I started reading A.T. Still for the first time and his revelations about fascia and how prescient he was, to the discovery of, the wonder of fascia. And, rereading William Gardner Sutherland and his journey on this, and how his communications with Roland Becker. And I've just, I in this lockdown, I've actually just reread Life in Motion again. And I just reread these books over and over again. And I'm just struck by how every time I read them, something new jumps out at me. And so all of these people have been influences, and many more.
Thank you. And could you say a little bit how, with all those influences, how your own work in practice has developed over time?
Okay, I'll give you a specific example. I mean, as I said, I think I'm, sometimes one is guided, and I'm often guided by my patients or by my circumstances to learn things, whether I'm assigned a lecture or when my mother was dying. I just seemed to attract a lot of people that had terminal illnesses. So I learned a lot about treating, people in those circumstances, and the continuation of life, between treating babies and treating the death and dying. It was really quite a beautiful understanding of that. But recently, now that I'm course directing module 5, and I've taken it and taught on it, I can't think of how many times. And there've been some wonderful course directors, from Jeremy Gilby to Pete Cockhill to Michael Harris. And now I find myself, in that, really privileged to be in that position. I've just really got into what it is to treat the space between, and not the structures, which is what Sutherland said. Roland Becker said, if you're treating a strain and if you're treating the structures, you're just going to have action and reaction continually. Whereas if you get into the space, that's where the transmutation occurs. That's when the body the lesion, or whatever we want to call it, that lack of health, seems to go through that transformation into health. And so that is just one example, but it's a pretty profound example for me of where I need to be as a practitioner and where I need to get out of the way as a practitioner. And really, so much of my life is kind of getting out of the way and trying to keep my mouth shut, which I'm not doing very well at the moment. But not thinking I know everything, and admitting that I have so much more to learn. And it seems like the older I get, the more I have to learn, and I'm running out of time. But so it's very continuous. So it's just that journey of just being open to things always, and not getting stuck in a routine or stuck in a pattern or way of practicing.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Is there anything more that you'd like to say about that? About different things that have influenced you, different moments?
I find, it was really interesting because, as I said, I started my career working with a woman and doing four-handed treatments with a woman who was biodynamic, and then it's been a journey in the last 10 years of going to America and doing the biodynamic phases with Jim Jellis, when Jane Eastie and I would go over every year together. And it's just been, a confirmation that actually, it sounds so, it's knowledge and wisdom it comes in so many different forms. I mean, I could say after every course I would say that's great, because it was almost all the stuff I learned already in the SCC was it was almost like a confirmation that not that I'm not learning new things, but it's like a deepening every year of what I what I've been taught before, but it's like getting deeper into the middle of it, into the space, maybe getting into the space of all the things I've learned and all the people, of not just saying, not doing a course and putting that folder away and going, okay, now I'm on to this one, of kind of embracing everything and stepping back. And when I'm in the right space and I allow myself to get into that right space and the space within, allowing whatever's going to come, whatever the tide brings is going to inform me. And there's no way of rushing that. It's like there's no way of rushing it. It's just, it comes. That's one of the nice things about aging, Claire, is it kind of comes, wisdom and acceptance of yourself and love of yourself. All that stuff comes, you can't force it. And, but I'm really, really happy to be at this stage of my life. I haven't been able to practice for a while, and even this has been a good break, that I've taken a break, but I miss it because I love practicing and I love osteopathy. And I'm so glad you asked me.
That's great. Lovely. I think that's a very good place to leave it. Well, thank you so much for your fascinating and full interview. That's really lovely, and it's lovely to connect and spend time.